Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of the Further Insights podcast. I'm Andrew Schuster.
I'm Alfonso Colasuonno.
And we're so excited to have today's guest, Mr. Tom Starr. Tom, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. We've become really good friends over the last few years and colleagues, and I've watched you develop as an artist and as an entrepreneur. I'm really excited for you to share your story with our audience. So I guess if you can just start off and give us the 10,000-foot overview of who are you?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. This is
Absolutely
a cool thing that you guys are doing, so it's an honor to be on here. I moved back to Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore originally. I moved back here 3.5 years ago from Austin. I basically moved to Austin because I was craving music and warm weather and just moving out of Baltimore and trying to kind of make it in a fun, lively live music city. And I spent a couple years in Austin, and I was in a couple different bands. I was in a classic country band. I was in a blues rock band. I started a little music studio for lessons and recording. And then I also was running my own little market research consulting business. Part of the reason I moved to Austin, though, was basically I was doing my business here and my music was here, probably 80% of my time, 20% of my time. I wanted that to go like this. I was craving really making music a bigger part of my life. So I thought moving to Austin might help me kind of pursue music more and less of my business. And it did, and then it led me serendipitously to start my band with my childhood friend, Austin Lasky, Utsi, which led me to move back to Baltimore to get that band rolling and touring. So now I'm back to Baltimore. I've been here for 3 years. I have my Utsi, which is my original kind of psychedelic rock project. I have my band, Tom Starr Band, which does events, weddings, gigs all around town, all kinds of stuff. And then I have my emerging solo project, which is in the early stage. So those are kind of the three angles with music that I'm playing right now. And I'm full-time with music, no longer doing my business. So that's the short of it.
And you're a musician from childhood, or is this something you picked up?
So I took guitar lessons starting in first grade. So I learned when I was really young with legendary music teacher, Mr. Utsi. We named our band after him, Paul Utsi, at elementary school. So first, second, third grade, took guitar lessons. I was in the third, fourth, and fifth grade rock band where we went around to local schools and performed. So that's kind of when I got like bitten by the performing bug. Third, fourth, fifth grade rock band. As a third grader, to go in front of an all-girls school and see them watching you is like a formative moment. It's like, oh, wow, I like this. So third, fourth, fifth grade rock band. And then the band broke up, went to middle school, got into sports, basically set music aside for the next 10 years of my life. I was into lacrosse, went to college, liberal arts school, played lacrosse, studied psychology and entrepreneurship. Music was not a factor until I kind of picked the guitar back up during college. And I was like, it was one of those moments where when you learn something when you're really young, it's in there, even though you don't do it for many years. So I like picked the guitar up to jam and I was like, oh my God, I can play guitar. Because I learned when I was really young. And it was like a cool moment because I was like, oh shit, like this is cool. This is something that I think needs more of my time. I can't just put this away. So after college, I kind of picked it back up and was like, all right, how do I give this more of my time, more of my life? I gave it a try. I was writing songs, playing all the time. And then I realized I don't think this is a healthy, fulfilling lifestyle. I'm alone. I'm not making money. So then I kind of got away from it again. I worked for a couple startups. I started my own little market research consulting firm. And then fast forward a couple of years, I got to the moment where I was like, once again, I was like, all right, I need to figure out how to make music a bigger part of my life. I can't just, basically the moment I had my own office, I was in a co-working space, I had a business, I had several people working for me, I was working with big people. On paper, it looked great. and it looked like I was doing well. But it's kind of cliche, but I really felt a calling from inside me that was like, you need to figure out how to pursue music right now, or you're going to basically look back and be like, what if? And I really felt that. I felt I don't want to look back on my life and think, what if I had really just pursued music? And so that's what led me to moving to Austin and making music a bigger part of my life. And that's kind of how I am where I'm at right now.
So it's definitely a little bit different from the traditional narrative of jumping from a successful business into music, rather than the other way around. The stereotype of the starving artist. How did you have fears for when you decided to move out of something that was safe but really not quite your calling, when you had that internal feeling to do something different?
So it's funny that you use the word safe, because I was still in a very running my own little startup market research firm was also not safe or stable. It was very much a startup. And I also, part of the equation is I wasn't loving what I was doing. It was a very technical, it was technical market analysis for high impact science and technology coming out of university labs. So very, very technical, more geared towards an engineering or a science brain, and I'm more of an artist. So it wasn't quite the right fit. I think what made it appealing to me is the entrepreneurial aspect. I'm very entrepreneurial, and the thought of having my own business and doing all the entrepreneurial things that come with that was very appealing, and is what kind of kept me going. But after the startup phase, it was like, oh wait, this is not what I should be doing. This is very technical work, and I need to be writing songs. I need to be playing out. I need to be doing that kind of thing. So that's kind of what led me to make that 180 turn.
When you fast forward to now, and you're playing, as far as I can tell, most nights of the week, and you're booked out far in advance, I guess, how did you make that leap from saying I'm going to do music full time into actually doing it? What were the steps you took? And then how has marketing played a role throughout your entire journey from your startup days to now music?
So that's a great question, because I don't think I could be where I'm at right now as a gigging musician if I didn't have the experience of starting my own market research firm. Starting that company really taught me how to do the sales and marketing thing, how to communicate professionally, how to reach out to people and try to get some of their time, even if they didn't want to. I think it's helpful to kind of paint the picture of context. So what I was doing in my market research firm, I was basically reaching out to folks to see what they thought about these new ideas and technologies. And then I would go back to the researcher, inventor, or scientist and say, here's a bunch of market data that I compiled from people, from stakeholders in your technology. So what that meant was me calling, emailing, showing up. This is a great new idea. What do you think about it? It'd be really valuable to get your insight, and then we can keep in touch as this technology develops or as this business develops. So that kind of wearing that hat taught me how to do the very things that I'm doing to book gigs and to market my band. It's reaching out to venues. It's reaching out to agents. It's kind of pitching the band and this idea, and it's just a lot of the same skills. So doing that really helped me kind of get my band off the ground. It allowed me to, like I said, reach out to venues and agents and stakeholders and kind of get things rolling there.
So one of the things that I see a lot in the arts is the stereotype of a lot of artists, whether they're musicians or writers, visual artists, kind of just focusing on the production of their art and not really the marketing and the business side of it. I guess the question is, how do you think someone who may be in the arts but has never really done marketing or dipped their feet into business, how can they really just make their dream a little bit more realistic in terms of just practical steps?
Right. Great question. So I learned from a young age that everything you do professionally is some sort of business. Even if you're an artist, you're a business. And if you don't think like that, if you don't think in the context of you being a business, you're not going to sustain yourself. You're not going to do it for very long. So knowing that, I knew, and this is still, an ongoing thing. I'm still in the early stages of building this, but knowing that I want to be an artist for the rest of my life, I want to make music, I want to perform and record and do all those things, I have to make money doing it if I want to keep doing it for the rest of my life. So knowing that, I have to create a business around it. And what that entails is this stuff, the marketing, the entrepreneurship. So I think a lot of artists that never have the business experience, it's like this negative buzzword, business. And I've dealt with this with folks in my own band. It's a tricky dance with musicians and artists because there's negative connotation around business and suits and agents and money. It's almost like that is the antithesis of good original art. And that's not true. That's a misconception. If you think about it, all of the great artists and musicians that have influenced you, they were in the spotlight because of business, because they were able to make it because of marketing and agents and management and all that. They were able to get to a point where they could reach a mass audience and influence you. So I think it's a misconception that business and art are at odds. Really, they're both pieces to the puzzle. So I think I would encourage, if you're serious about your art and you want to do it for a long time, I would encourage kind of learning what are the business tools and the marketing skills that I can equip myself with to be successful and to be professional with this, because that's what's going to move it from a hobby or a side hustle to a job or a career or a profession.
Those skills you mentioned for an artist who's just getting started, like, can you quantify that? And maybe in order, right? Like, do you need to develop an audience online and record a demo before you can book a show? Or do you just start booking shows, filming them, DIYing it? And obviously every situation is slightly different, but
yeah.
I'd say there's a very big gap between like a working musician and an artist.
Definitely.
And I think you're on a path where you can do both, and you're seeing dynamic musicians and artists be able to be multidimensional in that regard. That's not for everyone, but like, do you have to be able to get those bar gigs and get those reps in, or can you just focus on artistry and online audience development? What's that gap look like, and how does somebody start?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think we're in a moment with music where it's two totally different paths. Like you can be a working musician and not be an artist, right? Or you can be an original artist and not be a working musician at all. I think the important thing, and this is something that I've learned over the last couple of years, because at first, 3-4 years ago, I didn't know. I knew I wanted to be a musician. I knew I wanted to make money playing music. I didn't really know exactly what my goals were. And now I have a clearer idea because I went and did all these things. The reality is, and this is something that I tell newer artists that ask me for advice and are looking for direction, what I tell them is the reality is it's going to take, if you're serious about being an original artist, it's going to take a long time for that to make money. And that's even if you're lucky. If you're lucky, you can make money as original artist. If you're lucky. And it's also going to take a lot of time. So knowing that, what does that mean? Does that mean having a job and pursuing your art until hopefully you can get to that point? Does that mean being a working musician on the side, doing the the bar gigs and all of that to make money? That step one is kind of knowing what your goals are and knowing that. So for me, knowing that it takes such a long time, to make money, to make a job out of being an original artist, I thought, well, I want to get really good. I want to play music as much as possible. I want to make money doing it. So that's where the marketing came into play. How do I book myself out? That for me was like, all right, the way to get really good is to play more than everyone. So how do I book myself? How do I play more than everyone? So then for me, I started booking myself out as much as possible, playing every gig I could. And I really kind of went in the last couple of years, I got somewhere with that. I started getting better gigs and better connections and getting better and meeting better musicians and all those things. So for me, the journeys of being an original artist and a working musician have really fed into each other because through being a working musician, I've been able to get better and meet people and work on my repertoire and write and make money doing that. All these things feed into the original stuff. So that's kind of my long-winded way of saying know your goal, what your goals are, and be realistic. Be realistic in planning for, to achieve those.
So in any professional journey, there's always a lot of trial and error. So I'm just wondering, kind of like in your experience as you grew your career, what were some of the attempts that you might have taken that didn't really pan out just in the course, and how did you kind of course correct to just get where you are, like in some of those initial challenges?
Yeah, good question. I think with music, I've always had the mindset that every opportunity and every gig, every connection has been valuable in some way. So I really genuinely can't say that anything was a dead end or a bad idea. Everything has had value in getting me to where I am now. In that, even for example, you might think a 4-hour, really bad, poorly paying gig in a dark bar with nobody's there. Like on paper, it's like, all right, it's a waste of time. But in reality, for me, I feel like that's an opportunity to work on your repertoire, and that's paid practice. Like for me, every gig is valuable because I would want to use that time practicing at home anyway. So it's like I might as well be getting paid, and having a gig and making a new connection. So yeah, my head goes when you ask your question being, were there any dead ends or wrong things? Like there have been gigs that have been tough and maybe not have like obvious value, but for me, like those are still good opportunities. I don't know. I have to think about that. Maybe that question.
Tom does not make mistakes. So
No. What this reminds me of is the story about the Beatles, how they really honed their craft with all their reps basically in Germany. So I'm kind of curious, like, what advice would you say to a musician or another artist, or even someone outside of the arts in a business, if their mindset, if they don't meet that initial success right there, to keep pushing through and not take kind of a negative or a kind of a misguided view of the fact that it's all a learning experience and you're getting better from that, even if it's not immediately paying off with results?
I definitely want to touch on that Beatles, because I'm a huge Beatles fan, and that was an inspiration for me early on. But I want to make sure I answer your question. So can you ask the question one more time?
Sure. So just basically, what advice would you give to keep a positive mindset and a growth mindset, even if, like, you're playing gigs and there's no one there, and it's a 4-hour set, and you may get a $20
Gotcha.
payment split up between the band.
So this might be an unpopular opinion, but this is another thing that I've told newer, younger artists. The world that we live in right now, it's so easy to put yourself out there and make this glitzy, glamorous content and be a content machine. It's so easy to do that and really be successful doing that and rise above, others that aren't doing that. What is more difficult and more rare, I think, is to actually put in the time getting better at the original thing that you're marketing. So I think what a lot of people are doing is spending so much time on the content piece, and maybe it's taking away from actually the songwriting, the practicing the guitar. So for me, I felt like if I'm taking these 4-hour sets night after night, that's gonna show. Like when you have 10 artists that are marketing themselves, if I'm just putting in more time gigging and playing out, that's going to show. And even if they're putting more content out, it's going to show the time that I'm putting in and the energy. And the other thing is, when you perform a 4-hour set, not only are you getting better at performing in your songs, but it's hard to explain, but you're getting better at putting energy into your song. So it's like a multiplying effect. So I just feel like there's no substitute for just the grind, for putting the time in, getting better at playing and performing and writing. And like back to the Beatles Hamburg, they paid, people see all the success they had, but you're not seeing the videos or the content of them grinding these long sets and doing it over and over again. That was really valuable for them. So, and I've read a bunch of Beatles. I'm a huge Beatles fan. I've read Beatles biographies, and I've read a lot of different famous rock band and rock musician autobiographies and memoirs and such. And one of the common threads is that you see the success, you see the fame. What you don't see is the grind leading up to that, is the 4-hour bar gigs, the songwriting, the conflict, all these things. So that's such a part of the story of success, even though it's not talked about. So knowing that, you have to be willing to be disciplined enough to put in that time. And I think with the explosion of social media and content, we're losing a little bit of sight of that root, the meat of the grind, because you're not seeing that. So yeah, I guess I would just say, don't forget about the grind. That's what makes it really good, and what separates you from others is putting in that time over and over again to get better.
When you look at that approach as an emerging solo artist against the backdrop of what has been years of multiple bands and developing your repertoire and putting in the work, these are 45-minute sets and showcases and record labels, that kind of whole approach. Like, what's your vision as a solo artist? What are you excited about? Are you going to keep doing everything? Let's just say you get that first hit single that's playing on the radio after everybody's done listening to this podcast. Like, what does that road look like in your mind, and how is it going to be different or better and or worse than what's the current state of affairs is with the band?
So definitely long-term goal is to put out music as an original artist. Knowing how that costs a lot of money. It costs money to market it. It costs money to get in the studio and record it. There's costs associated with that. Knowing that, I'm prioritizing making money, basically investing in myself and making money that I can then put into that. So for me right now, it's how do I basically, how do I make money while getting better, while improving myself as an artist and making my product better?
The main difference is recording original music and investing in high quality and
Yeah,
marketing
yeah.
and distribution.
So-
Is that the main difference what you're doing now and what that would be?
Yes. So that basically, I don't want to half-ass that. I want to do it right. I want the songs to be really good. I want the marketing to be really good. I want it to be a really good product. Knowing that I want it to be a good product means I'm going to have to spend a little bit of money. And so right now I'm getting this Tom Starr Band forward and playing a lot solo because I'm making money to put into the original project, but I'm also building my repertoire and building my skills. So basically I'm in this moment where I'm not directly pursuing the original project, but I'm pursuing the thing that I think will make the original project really strong and really compelling.
But they're not mutually exclusive in your mind now. It sounds like it's just the grind, the energy.
They're constantly feeding each other. Yeah. And there's been some unexpected, really cool musical accomplishments in doing the covers and the bar gigs and the events and the weddings. I played with through an agency gig. I played with Eminem's drummer like a month ago. That was really cool. I've been playing with I don't know if you know Benzel, Parliament Funkadelic, George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic, their drummer. So I've been gigging with him, and his next gig is playing the Grammys, but he wants to gig more with me. So that's really cool. So just meeting and playing with really amazing musicians and cool people. I might get in the studio with Benzel soon, and there's just a lot of cool opportunities coming, just from really kind of going for it. So yeah, I think my approach is a little unconventional. I'm also in my early 30s. I think that that plays into it as well. I think if you're embarking on being an original artist in your early 20s, it's a totally different. It's a different strategy. It's a different path. But because I'm in my early 30s, it changes the approach a little bit, I think. So I think that's part of the equation as well.
I can't wait to hear the songs. I'm like, what's a brewing here?
So Tom, here's another question for you. So, as you said, when you meet people like Eminem's drummer or Benzel, a lot of artists, as they work themselves up, they will have these connections that could form into incredible things. I'm curious just what advice you would give to people as they work their way up when they start meeting, names who could help them. How should you approach them? How did you approach these individuals to not feel like they were being that how can an artist do that in a way that engages them and doesn't turn off people who could help them in their next step of their career?
So I think, first impressions are really important, especially in music, where a lot of times you're meeting people, for the first time on a gig, and then you might not, that might be your only real, exposure with them. So I think there's two things that really stand out in the musician community with other musicians. It's talent and it's work ethic. And I think you need both to be successful. But I think where other musicians catch another musician's eye is work ethic. Because all musicians, most musicians that are out there gigging, recording, putting out music are talented. A lot of them are really talented. But I would venture to say that not all of them have an incredible work ethic, have that mentality where that tenacity that I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be successful. And that, I think, really stands out. If you have a younger, more inexperienced musician playing with an older, more successful, if that older veteran musician sees something like, oh, this kid's got it, what that means is not only the talent, but that means this kid's got an attitude. This kid's got a drive that I can feel. It's contagious. I can feel that. I know she is going to be successful. So I think, if you're a serious artist or musician and you're looking to play with better musicians and you're looking to make an impression and go somewhere, I think you have to be serious in the way that your presentation of yourself and the way that you're carrying yourself to help people know that to take you seriously. And I think that is a little bit rare in music, I think, because music's inherently fun and casual and bonding, and there's so many great fun things on the casual side of music, but I think people really gravitate towards people that clearly are really serious about it. Yeah.
Well, Tom, it's been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on today. Can't wait to hear some of these songs, and hopefully you'll come back and see us again sometime.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm sure we'll see you soon. But yeah, let's play some songs. And any closing thoughts before we head into the musical portion of this show?
I would just say that the magic word is, or the two P's for me, is persistence and perseverance. I think if you really want to do something, keep doing it and don't let anything else stop you from doing it, then success is inevitable.
That's great advice.
Well said.
Well, I'm Andrew Schuster.
I'm Alfonso Colasuonno.
This has been Tom Starr on the Further Insights podcast, and we'll see you next time.